Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Had a good day. How about you?
My day yesterday was pretty solid. I got my daily value post done. I got a blog written. I put out the word and asked pretty much everybody I knew if they'd go like sales throwdown channels. That way we can hit the hundreds and we can have the customized thing. And what's weird about that is I thought that I had asked everybody, like I thought that I had kind of made like a big plea and stuff like this. Plea. Um, but it was just kind of like a focus goal yesterday, right? I want to be able to customize our title for our channel. We need 100 subscribers, so let's go. And I put out the word, and a group I'm in, and on mine, and on my Facebook, and we hit it 4 or 5 hours later, and it's just like clear goals, right? It's like super clear goals, right? It shouldn't be shocking, right? That you put focus into something and then you get it done, but it's always kind of like, oh, yeah, I can make this easier, like because now it's like, man, if I was working with that kind of like focus of like doing this, like what else do I do? And that's where, for me, the stoicism like comes into play because like in the stoicism stuff, they're always talking about, the thing that's in the way that's causing you from complete the action is now the thing that you're there to work on and improve and everything else. And not to be upset about it, but to look at that as like, cool, when I'm done with this, I'm going to be stronger, right? And so you're supposed to attack it with vigor is kind of what they talk about. Mm-hmm. And, yesterday I attacked this goal with, some vigor and some focus and knocked it all out and felt pretty good about it. So, having clear goals is apparently pretty awesome. Who knew?
Yeah, and what else is funny? I was reading a chapter from a book this morning, and leaders are repeaters was the phrase that stuck out to me. And we often don't repeat the things that are really important to us. We go, like you said, we put it out there, and we're like, well, that's what I got. I guess that's what I'll get from it. And it's like, yeah but you asked once or twice. So
exactly. Yeah. What else did you get done yesterday?
So I got my social media plan done. I got my social media post up, and it was an actual ask. And I had 2 people reach out that didn't even comment on either of the posts, just went straight to DM and said, hey, let me in.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and that's actually something that I've preached forever, is that your best customers are the ones that never do any commenting or things like that. A lot of times they just come straight to DM because they've been following you for a while and they see your stuff. Mm-hmm. And they just like skip the whole comment section and go right to, hey, I got a question.
So when that happens though, don't you ever have that feeling of like, man, I kind of wish you'd commented a little bit, just to get a little bit, because I mean, first of all, we're obviously happy that like people are reaching out and being like, yes, I want to work with you and everything else. But there's a reason why we're posting this stuff on social, right? And why we work so hard to word things the way that we do. Like the other day, whenever I posted that one of my posts last week, and I put a TLDR on it, right? And Ray was like, man, I want this on everything. And like initially I was kind of like,
yeah,
man, I put so much work into these things, and you just want.
I can see the hate in the comment.
Well, but here the cool side of that, right? I can take it and be irritated, or not irritated, but bummed that like someone doesn't want to read all my writing. But here's the deal: I've known Ray for so long that there's no. He doesn't need the story to trust me.
Right.
Is what it breaks down to. He doesn't need the analogy. He doesn't need the metaphor. He doesn't need all these things because he just trusts me to do these things. So
yeah, that's a good point. It's context. I think that's why the TLDRs are so nice, is because you're speaking to 2 audiences, because there are people that know you already. So
yeah,
it's a great point.
Oh no.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
You're in pros.
I'm trying to get. There we go. Okay, sorry. I think I was using the wrong mic. Do I sound better?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And your setup's nice today, by the way. I like the whole room's lit. It's nice backlit. You've got a nice warm light on you. This is your best.
I'm getting it figured out slowly but surely.
Yeah, it's nice. I look like blue compared to you.
I bought the cheapest like you should see this setup that I'm running off of. I might post that actually, right? If you're watching, you want to see it, I'll post it.
Yeah, do it.
But I bought this little like clamp thing that clamps onto my Very desk. It's got these two kind of like bendable arms, and one of them's for my ring light, which is right over here because my buddy Michael at 4/3 Creative, all right, go check him out if you're into video at all. He makes amazing stuff, and his wife works on his team. They're amazing people. He's always on me. He's like, man, every time I see you and it's not in the studio, it looks a little janky, and I'm like, okay, I can't have the jank. So got this. This is like a $20 setup, and it's two arms, and they're flexible, and it clamps onto the thing. And now I've got this thing. I've got a Yeti microphone right here that you can't really see, but like this is nothing, guys. Like, and Mr. Jake Jordan is telling me that it looks good. So if Jake Jordan's gonna tell me it looks good, this arm was $20. The Yeti mic I think was $100. The webcam was maybe $150 a couple of years ago, and I'm here, right, and I'm going. So if you want to start something, like go figure out the way to get it started. It doesn't have to be with like super high end gear, you know.
Well, and mine's $150 worth of stuff. I just knew what to buy. That's the only difference. And this is a $110 mic, and I've got a $40, huge ring light hung on my wall like a piece of art. Webcam built into my Mac, so it's you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. It's weird because like in various. Jake and I were going to start a podcast, 2 or 3 years ago, and I kind of had this idea, and we were going to call it Pivot Mountain because I was just launching John Small Mountain, and Jake and I were going to do this thing together. And I went out and I bought a board. Man, I bought a board. I bought so much stuff because I was so fired up about the podcast thing. And then we did episode 0, and then we did episode 1. And then you were slammed, and I was all over the place, and we were just like, okay, like
maybe later.
Yeah, maybe later. I think is exactly how we talked about it.
2.5 years later, here we are.
Yeah. Jake, let's come back to this in 2020.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
That'll heightens urgency, and
it's not the right time, Jake. There's no worldwide pandemic. There's no riots and protests. We got to wait for something much bigger to be going on before we launch this thing and put it out there.
Yeah, it's going to be epic.
But like, the thing is, and I'm seeing this so much in my own self and my own writing. I almost didn't journal last night. I was super sleepy, and I was sitting on the couch, and I was kind of like, I cannot journal tonight. And then it just dawned on me. It's like, this is the moment. Like this right here is when I either like pave the path on this new path that I'm on, or I'm like, oh, that's rocky. I'm going to stay over here. Mm-hmm. And I got over there and I journaled for, less than I would normally journal, right? Normally I crank out about, 3 to 4 pages, but like this is about a full page. And I felt so good afterwards, right? And then I was like, cool. And then got up and went to bed, essentially.
Yep.
It's awesome. Yeah. So, and now I'm like fired up about doing it tonight because I did it once when it was hard.
Yeah.
When you do that new habit for that one time when it's hard and you're like, yes. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of habits to build, I did my 10 asks yesterday, 10 individual asks. And then I had a couple shout outs like on larger pages that were just, hey, can I share this? Like, yes, please. So that's good. I feel really good about the 10 asks yesterday.
That's awesome, man. So you got 10 more today?
I do. I've got 10 lined up on my whiteboard over there.
Good for you. Good for you, man. Yep. I don't want your $100.
Don't worry.
It's funny to me how much static my comment is getting in that one group that we're in. Like everyone is so up in arms about like, hey, automations are, and I was like, no, I get it, guys. Like there is something there, but you got to scale the thing that works. We don't even know if this is working yet. Yeah. So,
which is a great point, right? So I was talking to somebody yesterday about that same thing. Is why are you scaling when you don't know what thing works yet? And because they had 3 different ways that they were trying to do outreach, and we're like going really hard to get all that done. Like they're really sweating it. You can tell, you can see it on their face and their tone of voice, everything. They were really stressed about it. And I was like, which one of those was working best for you? And they were like, well, I mean, none of them right now. Okay, well, is there one that you think is going to work better than the others? And he was like, yeah, well, I mean, this one's definitely going to work the best. Like, well, well, why don't you take some time down from these other ones and then focus on the one you know is going to work best? He's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? Like, so he knew the answer. It was just like trying to figure out how to get his own brain out of the way.
And it's crazy because like in so much of the marketing stuff and the business stuff, it's all about test and test and test and test and test. Well, that's great, but you have to define what the test looks like. And I don't think that people do a good enough job of this, right? They're like, well, let's just see. Well, what's your hypothesis? Like what do you think is going to happen, right? Because if you just let it run and then you leave it up to how you feel, then you're going to make some bad choices. Like, and that's the thing, right? So don't make bad choices, right? Put yourself into situations where you can look at data. And I know that makes me sound like a robot. Like, I totally get it. Like, I mean, I'm not the funnest guy at a party. I understand. But when you want to grow the right way and take it out of how you feel about it and put it into like actual concrete terms, plan, write it down, right? And I'm reading the 12-week year right now, and it's blowing my mind. It's been pretty awesome. But like, it talks about this idea that people don't want to measure themselves because then they have to hold themselves accountable whenever they don't hit their goals. Mm-hmm. And I had this huge epiphany. Like, that's every sales team that I work with, like every one of them, right? Because like I show up and, you know, the owner or the leadership is like, cool, here's John, he's going to help us out with the CRM. And they're just like, oh,
yeah,
you know, and I get it. Like, I totally get it. But you gotta step up and say like, okay, cool. Like, it's more important that I am successful than I am right in my mind. And the only way you're going to do that is by track. You know, it's the Drucker line. What gets measured gets managed.
Yeah, that's so true.
You can tell yourself anything. God, it's so easy to tell yourself something. It's crazy.
Well, it's that part of you that always thinks that what it could be like is almost always worse than what it will actually be like, right? And so, like back when I had my productivity podcast, Krista Catrola said that discipline is freedom. And she said, as soon as you get inside a set of disciplines that actually make you stronger, you look back and go, what in the heck was I doing?
Yeah.
Every time. And I think a lot of those are just built in to job descriptions. Like you said, with salespeople, it's like, oh, I get in the CRM, that means I got to track. And I track, that means I got to input. And input, that means I got to actually care. I can't just have lunch, you know? So it's like,
well, and this is my whole like wedge that I'm trying to drive into the sales culture in and of itself. That guy, that kind of idea, like the packer, right? You know, when you watch The Office and you see Packer, he's on the road and he just shows up with results and no one really wants him around. Like, that's what people think that like most salespeople are like, you know. And then, but nobody wants that anymore. Like nobody wants the guy who just barely makes it in under the wire, right? Everybody wants a guy who's going to do the work and be consistent and be bankable and do all these things that are important, so that way you can actually grow your business. And you know, that takes diligence and consistent effort and tracking. And you know, I'll get there eventually, but you know, right now I'm just the guy with the not fun idea is what it does. So then what I normally have to do is I got to go talk to the leadership. Okay, cool. What can we give your team as an incentive to change, right? Because change is really difficult, and it's crazy. And then, you know, there's habits around that you have to build. But I'm a big Jocko fan, and he talks about the idea that discipline equals freedom. And that was the first place that I ever heard it. Man, the first time I heard that sentiment, I was like, man, this is how boring. How boring of a life does that sound like?
Yeah. I was like, oh, you're a Navy SEAL. Okay. All right. That makes sense coming from you.
Exactly. It's okay for you, but I don't need that, you know? Yeah. And then whenever I was working with Jeff, he started to really pay attention to his sleep, and he was going to bed at like 9 a.m. and waking up at like 5:30 and everything else. And he was in love with it. And I was kind of like, just why? What, you know, but it's just like little bitty shifts. You know, I used to hate Mondays and now I love them. And I used to really like Fridays and now I'm not a big fan of those. So, you know, you're allowed to change.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
Yeah.
You just got to hit the obstacle head on.
Exactly. Obstacle flipping, right? And then turn it into something, right? Like, this is going to make me better on the other side of this.
Yeah.
So
what's on today?
Okay. Today seems like a pretty big day. Hold on. Let me get to my calendar real quick.
Okay.
I have got, let's see. I've got a call with a client for an hour. I've got I do these digital coffees with people online because I don't really want to go to a coffee shop, and not everyone lives here where we live. So I've got a digital coffee. I've got a training if I want to. It'll be re-recorded and redone, and then I've got 4 kind of 15-minute deep dives today with new people in my network to learn what they do and see if there's any opportunity to work together. And yeah.
Okay, cool. I've got some onboarding for the group, so I like to at least say hi and get in there and do some points for new people into the group. I've got my 10 asks. I've got a bunch of email to write for some client funnels. So it'll be a heavy writing day. And then I need to go ahead. I'm going to put it on my schedule today to finish day 7 of my 7-day content camp, like the framework.
Okay.
I want to make sure that that's completely fleshed out before next week. So
that's a big day, dude. Are you going to get all that done?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's time blocked.
Okay, good for you. That's awesome. Real quick, I saw this cool app yesterday or the other day. Jeff sent it to me. Are you familiar with the idea of like an Eisenhower blocking, right? And so for those of you who don't know, right, Eisenhower blocking breaks a task into 4 categories, right? There's urgent, important and important, and
unimportant, unurgent.
Unimportant, unurgent, right? And so the goal is you're supposed to be working on the things that are important and urgent. Well, Jeff's got this suite of tools, and it's actually really, really awesome. So what happens is when you add things to the to-do list, and then you can drop them into these boxes later. So you can still do your kind of a modified version of like getting things done. Mm-hmm. But when you put stuff into the urgent, it also ties to like a Pomodoro timer.
Okay.
So you get like lots of focus without really having to go too far outside of things.
Wow.
And it's pretty smooth. The reason the Pomodoro timer and some of this stuff ties into iPhone, but it doesn't tie into Android, and I'm an Android guy, so okay. I'm using the Focus Planner, which kind of does like the Eisenhower blocking or whatever, and then I'm just picking whichever task I'm working on in the Pomodoro timer. But it's pretty slick.
It's nice. That's a good setup. The integration will be nice. Once we get it on Android, let me know because I definitely want to try it out.
I mean, you and me both, right?
Yeah. Well, and also I was actually reading about the Eisenhower concept yesterday in something I was doing, and that comes from the fact that you expand to the amount of time that you have. So a task can take someone 10 hours, and it can take someone 10 weeks. Literally, if you give them that time, that's what they expand to. And if you don't have these boxes where things go and timers on them, you're going to always expand to the time you have. It's just human nature.
Man, that's the hardest concept to explain to someone else when they haven't bought into that idea yet, right? Like,
but everyone knows it. Everyone kind of knows it, though. Like,
yeah, but it's one of those things that like,
do it.
but until you realize like there's a whole other way of like operating, it's just like, oh, this is how like everything happens, right? Everyone just kind of procrastinates until like it's do or die time, and man, it doesn't have to be that. You can tell yourself whatever you want. You can say this is due in an hour. Well, crap. Now I need to work really hard to get this thing done in the hour, right? It's about the stories you tell yourself at the end of the day more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, the Eisenhower blocking is great. I mean, anything to where you constantly have to be putting stuff in front of yourself, right? Like that's the thing, because we get sidetracked and squirreled. I mean, even focused people, you're going to get torn off the path, right? I mean, I got to be pretty hesitant about hopping into my email to look for one thing, because I know that I'm going to find 17 other things that are like, John, look at me. And it's like, there are periods in my day where I've got that strength, and there are periods in my day where I don't have that strength, right? And when I don't have that strength, I don't go near my email, right? It's like, I check it at the times that I check it, but other than that, I stay out of it because I'm weak, right?
yeah. Email and social media, that's the two. Like once you get in there, it doesn't matter what you're going for. There's just a pull.
Yeah.
It's just there. So yeah, agreed. It's all about resetting and stories you tell yourself and all day long.
Absolutely, man.
Oh man. Well, it's going to be a good day.
If we make it one, for sure.
So it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, exactly right.
Cool, man. All right. Well, that's all I got. What you? Anything else?
I'm having some really cool conversations with some social media VAs and some people that are bringing some like really interesting process. And it's funny because I was talking about it with Melissa yesterday, and she's like, I'm hearing you talk to these people. I feel a little bit bad. It's like, well, don't feel bad. I think there's more to this than we know, right? I mean, there's more to selling than most people think it is. So there's more to marketing than most people think it is. There's more to growing a podcast than we thought was going to be, right? Because she handles so much for the podcast. It's been really, really great. But, she was feeling bad, and then I felt bad because I was like, yeah, I guess I maybe should have talked about this with her earlier on, but we're not at the goal, right? If we're not at the goal, something's got to change, right? The inputs that we've been doing up to this point have not led to the output that I want, so the input needs to change.
Right.
So I've talked to, 3 people recently about social media stuff for the podcast and for me, and having some really cool conversations and learning some cool things, and we'll be pulling the trigger with somebody this week.
Cool. I'm talking to a couple of VA companies as well, just casually, but like for the same intention of taking some of the $10 work off my plate, just in general. And so maybe on Friday we can talk about what we both gathered on VAs just real quickly and share some of that.
Yeah, I was writing about that whole process about dollarizing your activities and efforts, and then figure out that. And then I was also thinking about how I'm trying to delegate right now, right? And the thing that I'm trying to do is, like, I'm trying to delegate something, and I want the tracking, I want the process, I want all these things. So I'm going to have to pay a premium for those things, right? So that means that I'm probably not going to get someone at like $7 an hour, right? Or $5 an hour. Like, I'm probably going to need to pay up. And this is important. When you pay the premium for one of these like agencies on VA or on Upwork or, Fiverr, whatever, you're going to get things that you might not get with a freelancer. You're going to get things like tracking. You're going to get things like reporting. You're going to get multiple access points and stuff like this. So what that leads to is that when you need someone to do something better than yourself, you need to go pay for that and hire at that level. Yeah. When you're trying to take stuff off of your plate that has been successful and is repeatable, like, that's a whole different process. So I'm writing this huge kind of blog piece about this whole thing, and I'm kind of sharing some of my stuff because I gave all of Adaptive Growth's content to Melissa. I'm like, this is all you get to do all of this now. And she, of course, was uncomfortable with it, but it's like, I'm not doing a good job with it. I trust you. You're awesome. So let's just like build a plan and go work the plan. So,
yeah.
But you gotta start looking for those areas where you're holding on to stuff too tight, and in my opinion, make yourself write out a plan so that way you could give it to somebody else. And the more you do that, the better you're going to become, and the more you can offload stuff to other people. And if you want to work 80 hours a week and like that's what you love, then go for it. But I don't really know anybody who wants to work that much.
Not really. People say they do, but not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's reminding me of is when I used to run the interns over in an agency, and you could have interns that would come in that were super charged up, but you didn't have a plan for them, you didn't get much done. And then you could have really just kind of ho-hum intern that just had to do it, but if you had a plan for them, they would get more done than the like super charged up intern. So just being prepared to know what you're handing the VA and exactly the task and the project it lines up to or whatever. I have found so far it's been a lot easier to talk to the companies about who do you have, what do they charge, how much can they work, when can they work. Because before it's like, oh, well, here's some bios. Tell me the one you like. It's like that doesn't really help me get anything done. So
and when you sit down and you line out all these items, that you do, and get like as granular as possible, check email. Okay. Checking email is not $100 or $1,000 activity, right? It's a $1 or $10 activity because you lose your focus, right? So if you can put a buffer in there and say, cool, I want you to check my email every day, and we'll figure out what gets escalated to me and what you just handle and stuff like that. It's a process, right? And people see that process and they're like, God, that's so much work. Right. Yeah, but it's work you're doing every day. Like, you're doing that work every day. Yeah. And it's never going away until you fully empower somebody else to do it. Yeah. And it's difficult, and but every person I know who's like, VAs don't work. It's like, oh, how much instruction and planning did you give them? Oh, not at all. Right. Oh, yeah. Weird.
You try one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Hyatt has a great book about it. If you haven't read it, he literally has a book.
Are you on the full focus path? Because Jeff bought one and he was telling me about it, and I was like, I might buy one of these too. And he was like, man, if you buy one, we'll do it together. And I was kind of like, hey, I like that. What are your thoughts on it?
It's good. I'm actually a second on James is on the full focus path over at Quirk. And so I'm getting his overflow. And so the book, though, just anybody can buy the book about the VA, so I forget what it's called. But he does a really cool thing because he tells you how to hire a really top notch and train executive assistant, but he starts at the VA level and says, here's how you just bring on a VA to start the things you need done, and how you transition into hiring someone who's actually like a full time, and it can be in person or VA model. He personally uses a in person one now, but he's done all stages, and you know how good he is at documenting things. So it's really good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
You know, I mean, nobody gets there by themselves, right? And like, you know, I think there's a lot of people who want to run like a super small lean thing, and I think that's fine, but that's not really what I'm going for, right? Like I want to take shots on people, like people took shots on me, and do things well, but that requires me to be at a certain revenue level. And you know, like I don't think I've shared this on here, but like I got 5 things I want to build that are sales related, right? And I'm not gonna be able to build all of those by myself, right? So the goal is to get to a certain point and replace myself, and then have like really kick-ass partners, right? In these ventures that I want to build.
Yep.
So,
yep,
that's the jam.
Perfect, man. Love it. Cool. Well,
Awesome.
let's get it.
Yeah, let's start the day.
All right, man. Well, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Absolutely, man. I'll see you in the morning.
All right, cool.